Hello there, everybody. Hey guys, I don't know what I'm saying. I just wanted to make this little quick video here just to give my few thoughts on on a very popular topic that I've been reading a bit up on, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on it. You're probably all aware of is that siren in the background? Okay, whatever. You've heard of all of you probably know, fan fiction. I'm sure everybody fans of stuff. I bet a lot of people pretty much know that topic. But I like reading a couple of them once in a while. Some of them are okay. Uh, that's what I want to get on was, you know, there's always going to be a couple that really stand out. Like I can't really name any right now at the top of my head, but there's a there's a few really well written ones that are pretty entertaining and are just really just funny. They can be funny, emotional, romantic, well written, and once in a while you find really good ones. But other times you find ones that are just really sappy, really overly emotional, really overly dramatic, and just really depressing to read. And that's what I wanted to get on was I found a few fanfics of things. I'll talk about another video some other time, but there's ones you see I can understand what the writers are intending, but it's just like for example, there's fanfics I've read where they kill off main characters and off of popular things, which they don't die in the official canon, in the official material. They're alive, but in the fan fiction story, they get killed. That's the thing I don't like. I understand what they're going for, and a part of me does say, this is their interpretation of what would happen if this character died. And I understand that. But at the same time, reading it, I understand, people always say, oh, you have to separate, the fan fiction from the actual canon source. And I understand, and I do. But it doesn't help, though, at the same time. I'm reading some of these fanfics where main characters get killed either by, they get killed, murdered, they commit suicide. It's kind of depressing to read. And I said, I understand what they're going for, why a character would. The problem, though, is if you know the official material, you never feel like there are any hints that they're unhappy about stuff. And I know people are going to say, well, that's the thing with depression. Sometimes you don't know people. That's true. But what we've seen on the show, or reading, or book-wise, or movie-wise, a lot of times there aren't any indications that they would commit suicide. And when you read it, it's like, I understand the point here, how it's showcasing how, I assume they're showing how awful these things are, but it doesn't help the fact that it's still depressing to read. Like, I've read fanfics, like I said, and certain fanfics I've read where a main character gets killed, it's kind of a downer story to read. I'm like, they're basically saying, well, you love these characters so much, I'm just gonna kill them off in my story, And I said, I know it's not canon, I know it has no effect on the official canon material, but I just don't like it. But if it's funny, well written, funny, for some reason, that's it. Answer me this question: how is it that I could I've seen a lot of depressing movies, sad movies. I like Requiem for a Dream. That's a depressing movie, but it's really well done, well written, well acted, well directed. It's one of my favorite films. American History X, another very dark, sad, gritty movie, but it's well written, well directed. And people are going to say, well, why do you like them? That's because they're original sources. Nothing came before, nothing came after. But these are based off of official materials that they're putting a depressing spin on sometimes. And like I said, I understand it has no effect on the canon's material. I know that. It's just, I just don't like, thinking, well, here are characters I like dying. If the show, I don't think the show or movies I like that I read them off of would do that if they make sequels or more seasons of, or more books, whatever, in the future. I don't think they will do that. I'm just imagining like, oh, this is awful to read. I'm just imagining like, what if? That's my biggest concern. It's like a what if scenario. I don't know. Answer me the question, why. Even other ones I don't like. I don't like certain fanfics that are way overly sexual. Ones that really have a lot of, like, I kind of know, if I say, oh, I'm reading a lot of these fanfics just by the titles, and all of a sudden they just get, like, really sexual. I'm like, okay, come on, like, reading it, I'm like, this is kind of trash. Like 50 Shades trash. And we all know 50 Shades is not a well-written novel by any means. If you read a lot of those pages, you're like, this is like garbage, trash. It's not romantic, it's not erotic, if you want to call it that. It's just trash. But certain fanfics, I'll admit, few fanfics, few and far between, have, suggestive stuff in them, if you want to call it that. That's well written. It's engaging, It's engaging. It's kind of funny. It's really romantic. Like, I've liked a couple, maybe if you want to say teen to mature rated fanfics. They're just well written. That's all it is, I just like them because a couple of them are well written. But some of them, I'm just like, oh, the grammar is terrible. The way they describe stuff feels like it's very amateurish written. Like 50 Shades level, when the grammar's terrible, the way they describe stuff's like, leaves nothing to the imagination. That's a good thing about some fanfics. Even the ones that are really romantic, suggestive, leave some stuff to the imagination, The way they describe stuff, you can kind of get a hint of what's going on. The wordplay is clever. But other fanfics are like, the wordplay isn't clever, it's just really trashy the way they're written. But, some fanfics, though, like, there's a category called hurt, comfort, angst. Some angst, it feels like way overly angsty. I'm reading it, I'm like, this is like too much. This is too much, Sometimes it's well done, depending on what the topic is. Like, I read one where I forget what genre it was. A character gets their wisdom teeth out. It's well done, It's under, I think, hurt, comfort, angst. I don't know, but I like it because it was written. It's relatable, And people are gonna say, well, what about ones that deal with the characters dying and death? Isn't that relatable? That's the part I don't understand. It's like, yes, it is relatable, but I don't like seeing the characters in that position. I don't like seeing them get killed off. They say, well, that's life. I know that, but I don't want to read a fanfic to remind me that's how life is. I don't like, I enjoy a lot of actual fiction works that deal with death. I just don't like seeing the main characters end up that way. Like I said, I enjoy a lot of novels that deal with death, serious topics, cancer, diseases, serious topics. They're well written, though. That's the thing. And they're not, the problem is they're original sources, pretty much. So when they happen, it's an original material. It's not based off of a pre-existing material. form of media. Seeing main characters die in fan fiction, it's just depressing, you know? I don't want to see or read my favorite main characters get killed. You know? And official works, like I've read Harry Potter books, a lot of characters died throughout, but they're just well written, and they were main characters, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I know certain characters would call them main characters got killed, but I could respect J.K. Rowling for doing it because it was done for a reason, and a lot of characters you could kind of understand why. But fanfiction stories, they kill off characters that nobody wants to see get killed. If you want to say that. But about the wisdom teeth thing, like I read a couple fanfic stories. I read them because they were pretty well written. And it's relatable to me especially, maybe because I'm biased, but because I got all 4 of my wisdom teeth out almost 4 years ago. And I can relate to what the story was. Like and it wasn't like overly sad, disturbing, or depressing. It was just well written and engaging. And it's not a terrible thing getting your wisdom teeth out, you know? It wasn't overly depressing to read. It's relatable to a lot of people for that, you know? And it's not a terrible thing, really. And I've read other ones. Another surgery I got out. When I was a kid, I got my tonsils and adenoids out. I've read a few fanfics where the characters get their tonsils out. It's not an overly depressing thing, you know? When they deal with that stuff, I can handle reading it because it's not surgery like that isn't really an overly depressing thing, you know? And I understand that you could say, well, they're painful to get out. Any surgery is, you know? But for me, it's relatable because I got that done. And soon, and I'll get to that in another video, never mind. But, yeah, you know, like, I've lost my train of thought. When that happens, and in the show even, the characters go through challenges. I understand that. People are going to say, well, in the show, they put them through challenging situations and books and movies. Certain movies, you know, that they're based off of, they put characters through challenging situations. I know that, but they pretty much come out fine. A few times they have some mental scars, maybe, scars from the battle. And people are going to say, you know, but they end up fine, you know, and that's what we want to see. Fans who like the characters want to see that. You know? Even if they have some emotional scars, they're still going to, at least they end with, at least they're somewhat going to be fine. And what else was I going to say? I've lost my train of thought again. Sorry, guys, but what else? I was gonna say something else about that. And another thing I hate a lot of fanfics have characters out of character. This is a common problem I think everyone agrees with. They write the characters doing things you know they would never do, you know, when they're out of character. I just don't like that. Like, you've seen a lot of infamous, I'm sure you probably know them all, you know, infamous fan fiction stories that characters do stuff, you're like, why, you know? They would never do that. And people probably say to that, well, maybe you don't know the characters well enough. But what we've seen, we don't think they would do anything. That's the thing, though. There wasn't an indication this would happen, you know? If you want to say that. Out of character, I hate that when they make the characters do things like committing suicide, like I said earlier. Watching the show or movie, you're they wouldn't do that. Like, they've been through worse. The fanfics I've read where they commit suicide, they deal with they do it because of something going on. If you're gonna say, well, that's realistic, they have problems, they think there's no other way out. I agree that that is a likely scenario. But what we've seen in the show or movie, I always say, why do I say show first? There's no hints that that would happen. By what we've known for them, that they always rise above what's happened to them. Why they rise above any challenges they get in the movie or show. There, I said it. Movie or show. So that for them, when you read this and they commit suicide, you're like, what? It's just, like I said, it's just downer stuff, And pairings. Oh, pairings. How did I forget that? A lot of fanfics. I don't have a problem with it, but certain people pair certain characters together. I understand why they do it. Sometimes though, it's just creepy. That's the thing though. Sometimes though, it is creepy. Like the certain characters they pair together, I'm like, come on, Some of it's just like, come on, like this is just really creepy stuff. Some of them are fine, like Harry Potter I always bring up, or Naruto Sakura. That's a popular pairing. Harry Hermione, that's a popular pairing. Spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear this, if you want to read if you want to read them or watch the shows or movies, mute this next part. Here's the spoiler right here. Sorry if you can read lips. Neither one really, or look away now. Neither one happens. Neither one ends up together. End of spoiler. Which I kind of myself agree, I kind of agree, yeah, people are going to say, well, it's cliche. Just because it's cliche means it's bad. And even the way they were written, I'm like, the how they ended up with whom, I'm like, there was hardly any indication of that. If you know Potter or Naruto, in my opinion, the characters they end up with, I'm like, there wasn't enough development. One-sided. How does that make a two relationship when it's just one person into the other one? Or out of nowhere they happened. So that's a whole different, I'm going off topic now. But, but yeah, the pairings, I can understand why they would. I don't like the creepy ones where they have like a older adult with a younger. That's creepy. That's really creepy and kind of illegal. Which I don't like that. I don't like the pairings where they have like a older adult with a older teen or young adult. I'm like, that's just creepy stuff. I really don't like those fanfics that deal with that. If it's a teen, I'm fine. Adult, I'm fine. But none of the creepy stuff. Another thing I don't like ones that are just violent for the sake of being violent. Like, a lot of the fanfics I've read get like really violent. Like the way they describe stuff, I'm like, okay, you're really over describing stuff. And even the depressing stuff, you're like really overdoing it. Like less is more. Always have that in mind. You've heard the phrase less is more. Leave stuff up to the imagination. Don't have a whole paragraph describing someone's room. Or a whole page describing a little detail. I'm like, leave it up to my imagination. List a couple things and leave the rest up to my imagination, if you know what I'm saying, But, man, I'm repeating myself now with, whatever. I'm repeating myself now. Something else I'm gonna add on. This is a big one I hate. I hate how certain fanfics, I don't even notice this until I reach to drop the penny down there. I don't even notice this until I'm at the next chapter or so. I notice it says status. I forget what it says. I'd have to look. It's been a little while since I've looked at a site, fanfic. But it doesn't say complete. At least when I see the complete phrase, I know the story's finished. But when a lot of fanfics, I read them, I get to a certain chapter, it doesn't even say complete yet. They always leave you hanging. I'm like, if you're going to finish the story, finish the story. Don't just leave us hanging. I've seen fanfics that haven't been updated in like 3 to 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4 years, if you want to call it that. I'm like, if you're just gonna at least have closure, have a sense of closure to the story, Don't just leave us hanging with the chapter ends and an update. I'll get to it later, and it never happens. I don't like that. I don't like stories that just leave it hanging. I always like a sense of closure, even if it's like I don't always like down endings of movies or pre-existing stuff. Well, original movies, I don't like down endings. So I'm like, I watched all that just to end like that. If the movie circulates around depressing stuff, I kind of know it's gonna end that way. Like Requiem for a Dream, I know it's gonna have a downer ending. It is a downer ending, but it's a great downer ending. But some downer endings, I'm like, what? Why? Why did you have to end it like that? And certain fanfics do the same. I'm like, why did you have to end it like it was going fine, but then all of a sudden it ends like downer ending? I'm like, why did you have to end it like that? And other ones when the characters die of something like I've seen certain fanfics when they get old, they die. People are saying, well, that's realistic. Does that mean you should use it all the time? Like, let's say they get sick, get old. Instead of having them, let's just say, I've fanfics, they all die. They get old and die. People are saying, well, that's realistic. That's real life. Fine. But how about instead of that, it just ends with them being old? Like, let's say they get super sick and they emerge from it. Do they always have to die? Like, show them emerging from the illness. Showing, hey, we can beat it. You can beat it. A good message to people reading it saying, if you get this illness, don't give up. Fight it. Instead of having the characters die from it, like what kind of... I've seen movie shows end like that, where the character gets an illness and die. I understand it's been done in shows, showing what does happen. I understand. But more stories could, even like this could maybe even goes for real stories. You know what I'm saying? Like, the characters get an illness and they get over and they get move on and they get well again. They get whatever illness you want to call it. Whatever illness you want, the fanfic has it, and they get better at the end, and they show. And I do like a couple fanfics. They say like I at the end they say this is dedicated to my family member who recently died, and that's not it's nice of you to do that. And if for all fanfics who have lost someone, I said I'm sorry for you. I understand what you're writing, and the ones that have write a story, a fanfic based off of someone who did close to them that did pass. I don't hold anything against you. I understand why you wrote it. For that, I understand. Make it. I understand that. But for other writers who just other writers, it would be nice to have more the characters getting better. Not just too many fanfics always have the character getting sick, something bad happens, they die. Yeah. But why not something bad happens and they learn to heal? They learn to move on. Which has happened a few times, but I don't think enough. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts. Now I don't know if I'm just rambling now or what, but I'm already talking for almost a half hour now. Man, I don't know, but tell me what I said. I don't know if I'm asking questions. I'm just giving my thoughts. You can agree, disagree with me if you want, but I don't know. But it was just my thoughts on fanfiction overall, Is there anything else I want to say? I don't know. I'm lost for words now. But one sec. Okay, now also, a lot of other I've seen a lot of bad movie sequels that end with that have main characters getting killed. I'm like, why'd you do that? Why would you do that? We love these characters and you kill them off like that? Like, really? Alien 3 comes to mind. I hate that sequel for what it did in the first 5 minutes. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but you kind of already know by said main characters. But I'm not going to say who. I just don't feel like it right now. That's another review for another time I'll talk about. Maybe sometime in the future. But I hate when they did that. It's like they basically said, you love these characters. You love all these characters from the last film. There you go. Boom. Gone. Why? I don't... That's how a lot of these fanfics are. They take lovable characters and they kill them off. And it's like I reiterate, as I said earlier, I understand why. They want to create, I understand why writers do what they do. Doesn't always mean... Just because, here's the thing, just because I understand why they write the stories the way they do, doesn't mean I always like what they do. If that makes sense. But, I don't know, just... Is there anything else? Nothing else I really want to say about that, I guess. But, oh, there's one other thing I like about some fanfics take scenes that are in certain shows and movies, and they put their own spin on them. Like, they describe stuff... Like, I like how a lot of fanfics describe the actual scene in the show or movie, but they describe the scene in their own words. That I do like. Like, this, after watching the scene, how fanfic writers write the scene, it's really cool seeing the writers, like reading the scene, remembering the scene, and reading their interpretation of the scene in their own words. That I do like. How they throw other stuff in the mix. They throw, crossovers. I don't really mind them that much. But I always like how they, add their own stuff into certain scenes. They describe certain scenes from, not copying everything from, that would be plagiarism, copying everything. I don't know if it's really, I know plagiarism isn't a good thing at all. Don't plagiarize. But they take I just like how a lot of them take the scenes and they put their own spin on it. And they write them in their own words, describing the scene from the actual show or movie or book. I like that. I do like that. That's about it, guys. That's all I gotta say. Pretty much out of words. See you later. Bye.